Hello and welcome. Keep your hand in your skirt. I am your host, Sabrina Brightstar. You can find out more of my work on sabrinabrightstar.com. Welcome. Today's topic is boundaries. Boundaries, and judgments. Many of us did not have a clear understanding on how to create boundaries or how to establish boundaries or how to enforce boundaries. Many of us were raised without boundaries. Those of us in particular who are codependent and we people pleasers, we tend to get into relationships, connections without boundaries. I recently heard something that I thought was amazing. It was a podcast with Shetty. I'm going to put the link in the show notes so you can check out the podcast. I love Shetty. And in the podcast, he explained something that happened to me, something that I've seen happen to other people, and he articulated it in a way that it just landed. It made so much sense, and it gave me so much self-compassion, as well as it really opened me up to have more compassion for others who are doing this thing. So what was he talking about? Well, he was having a conversation, and they were basically talking about like the spiritual community, the awakened community. When, as I say, from the 3D to the 5D, right? If you want to know more about my 3D to 5D, check that out on my website. It is a really, really good program. And they were talking about the transition, when you go from 3D and you have no awareness of the bigger, broader picture, versus when you're all the way in your 5D consciousness, in your 5D mindset, in your 5D vibration, like that's a night and day, that's a quantum leap. And so most people on the way to 5D start to have awarenesses, start to awaken or ascend, different words, same thing. They start to elevate their awarenesses, they start to expand their consciousnesses, and they start to recognize, realize, become aware, okay, there's more to the story. Self-protection usually starts to show up on this journey. Self-love, self-care, right? Like learning that it all starts within, right? Your sovereignty is within, your power is within. So as you start to realize that we are not just here to be, I want to say the word slaves. It sounds so terrible. We're not just here to be slaves or followers. We are all magnificent, powerful beings, and we are here to remember, realize the truth of who we are. And the truth of who we are is we are these magnificent, very spacious, powerful creators. And so on that journey, when we start to do more of that true self-love, that true self-care, that true self-protection, when you first learn about self-protection, because most of us, right, like we just don't have the tools on self-protection. We don't have the awareness, like what? That's self-protection. I remember one time I was at a terrible situation, crying my eyeballs out. People were all like pretending that I wasn't crying. It was a family dynamic situation. People were all pretending like I wasn't crying. Everyone was just avoiding it. I was deep in my pain body. And my son said, "Mom, why don't we leave?" And I swear to God, I was an adult. I was 50 years old, and it had never registered that I could get in my car and leave. I did not have to stay in that situation. So learning boundaries, right? It sounds so simplistic now that I tell you this story, but if you know any unhealthy relationships, or if you've been in any unhealthy relationships, we recognize that we get there because we don't have boundaries. We don't have self-care, self-protection. So when you start to have your awakening, start having your ascension, your awakening, you start to realize I need to take care of me. I need to deal with the wounded child within me. My inner child is depending on me and my ability to take care of her. And so I need to be my own advocate. I need to use my voice for my own protection, for my own self-care, for my own self-value. So this is what I heard from the podcast that was so good. So Shetty shared in this podcast. So they were talking about like when people get all the way to 5D, right? They're expanded, they're aware, they have their multidimensional set point, they have their multidimensional knowing. But on the way to get to 5D, there's a space where we get super judgmental, right? We know 3D is judgmental. 3D is right, wrong, good, bad, right? But when we start to realize like, okay, my inner child wounds, my ancestor wounds, it's up to me to heal, to acknowledge, to release those wounds, to change those patterns. And so as I'm starting to learn how to navigate that, as I'm starting to learn how to self-protect, then it's very easy for me to get super judgmental and use words like narcissist, covert. Ooh, when I learned about the covert narcissist, wow, that blew me wide open. Do you know about the covert narcissist? So I was learning these words, gaslighting, like I'm learning these words. And so now, because these words are explaining things that have happened to me, they're explaining my relationships, they're giving me words to articulate what I was emotionally feeling, but I didn't understand, and I just hid, suppressed, ignored, pushed it away, because that was my pattern. That was the pattern that I was comfortable with, familiar with, trained and conditioned to that pattern. So then when I started realizing like, oh my gosh, there's a narcissist, right? And I would have these words, well, then it's really easy to really be projecting judgment all over the place. And so Shetty said this, and it was so kind, it was so beautiful. He said, we really want to honor that phase where we get super judgmental because we're learning new tools and we don't know how to be with that person without self-protection, because we're learning the self-protection. So it's helping us, it's supporting us when we can label people, project a label on them and say, oh, they're narcissistic, like they're just so self-absorbed, I have to like protect myself. So we have these words to give us the awareness, to give us the tools on how to navigate it. Maybe it's a work situation, a family situation, a relationship with somebody. So we're getting these tools, these words, but then we can spend a lot of time in the judgment phase. And that's okay. I mean, it's just all evolution, right? Nothing's gone wrong. The house is not on fire. It's just all a learning curve and evolution for all of us, a growth, spiritual growth. That's what it is, right? And that what was so confusing to me, because my last partner, everyone would say, he's such a narcissist, he's such a narcissist. And I would find so much confusion in that, because I thought, if I create my own reality, can't I just summon the part of him that's not having those narcissistic behaviors with me? And I didn't want to label him that. I didn't want to project that label, right? I wanted to let me be the creator. Let me, if I want to talk to him, let me summon or pull out the part of him that's a match, the reason that I enjoyed him, the reason I enjoyed the relationship. And so it was so confusing for me for a period of time, because I would read the books, narcissists, you have to go cold turkey, you can't talk to them, they're danger, danger, danger. And I thought, I appreciate the self-protection, I appreciate the advice, but it was contradicting with my knowing, if I am a powerful creator, why do I have to be afraid of this pattern? Can't I create a different pattern? That was my confusion. And so I love when Shetty was saying, we want to hold so much care and so much kindness for that phase and that stage, that season, that we are super projecting and super judgmental. Because we see a lot of that, right? In the spiritual community, we see, as we're getting the awareness, as we're starting to get the bigger, broader picture, then there comes so much judgment. Sorry. I have seen people, like one girl, I was at this woman's group, and she was telling a really sad story about her partner had died, she had gotten cancer, and somebody I'm sure their heart was good. I'm positive their heart was good. They were in a spiritual women's group, right? But they shamed her. They publicly shamed her and basically said, you create your own reality, focus on good things, change your thoughts, change your life. And my body just contracted. So I was aware that okay, we can't use we get to do whatever the hell we want, right? We're free spirits, we're free. So we get to do whatever the hell we want, but we want to be mindful and aware that as we're evolving, as we're on this journey, we want to be careful. Well, unless we don't want to be careful, but your words and your projections, right, that can hold a lot of hurt and shame for people. And so I know I've made mistakes a ton of times. We're imperfect. Remember the perfection program. Why are we all so shocked and surprised when people show up imperfect? Hello. We incarnated as imperfect people. Why don't we get over the fact that people make mistakes, they do and say hurtful things? It's not that it's okay, but why are we so traumatized by imperfect people? And that's where starting to learn these boundaries, starting to be you get to show up however you want, because I am so strong in me. Regardless of what you do, I know how to take care of me. I have learned self-protection. I have learned that my inner child, that my personality self deserves to feel safe and protected. And I can do whatever it requires for me to feel safe and protected. And your opinion of my words or my choices or my behaviors, that's none of my business. Keep my hand in my skirt, right? Keep my hand in my skirt, mind my own business, take care of my own vibration, self-protect my inner child, my inner wounds that I have, so I can heal, so I can grow, so I can create new patterns and show up in a new way. And also give myself so much kindness for the times and the phases where I'm super judgmental and I'm super projecting cruel things on people. Because sometimes when you're so wounded, you're so broken, you're so hurt, the way to feel better is you're projecting this, and you label them, this person is a narcissist, I need to stay away from them. It's the same pattern over and over and over again. And you do, right? You do what you can in that moment to be able to find some peace, or to find some healing, or to find some acceptance or surrendering. And so we're all just evolving. So I just love the Shetty podcast to really show kindness to those phases, to those stages, to the seasons where we become super fucking judgmental. For me, I want to show kindness to other people who, when I witness other people being just fucking, so judgmental, so cruel, I want to show kindness to them, and I want to show kindness to myself. I want to show so much self-compassion, so much self-care when I go through those cycles and stages that I'm projecting negativity. So it's a super great podcast. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I look forward to visiting with you the next time. Thanks for listening.